Imagine being able to report on any metric in your business, driving the right strategic insights on where your company has been and where your company is going. Well, after working with over 100 fast-growing companies and training thousands of professionals all around the world, in today's video, I'm going to show you how with the right tools and systems, you can get all these metrics right at your fingertips. And if you want to skip this tutorial and get a template like this entirely for free, you can check out the first link in the description below. Let's get started. Now, before we talk about all those beautiful strategic insights, we need to make sure that you're not making this dire mistake that I was making. See, a company once hired me and were paying me $15,000 a month in order to get their financial reporting in order. They had just raised close to $20 million and things were really fast paced. And our team worked day and night in order to get all the information that they need, but it was entirely powerless because the data couldn't be trusted. See, they had information from their accounting software, from their database, and then their vendors also had information as well. And all three of those data sources conflicted with each other. So before you can drive any strategic insights, you need to make sure that you have the right data that you're working with. Now in finance and accounting, data usually comes from a CRM or a payroll platform, or most commonly an accounting software or an ERP, and it's prepared via what's known as a month-end close. Now, I have a completely separate video where I do a deep dive on a month-end close, but it's really valuable if you understand all four of these steps over here. Because in order to drive the proper insights, you need to understand what exactly is going on in the company. Now, I work with a lot of FP&A professionals who can put together some amazing forecasts, but don't understand the basics of cash versus accrual accounting. When you understand those differences, it makes it so much easier to forecast, and it makes your projections that much more credible. Now, you don't necessarily have to be the one that does the month-end close, but it's a good idea to have a good relationship with the accounting team. Now, I was fortunate to first get my CPA and get a ton of experience as a controller before I then moved on to FP&A. So step number one is to be a master of the data that's being generated by your company so that you can prepare a proper forecast. But first, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Bill. You know that feeling when you have all the information you need to make a call, but something keeps stalling the decision? Maybe priorities shifted overnight, maybe the data doesn't match across systems, maybe your team is heads down in manual cleanup instead of actually moving the business forward. And by the time you've sorted it all out, the moment's passed. That's the problem Bill is tackling during their free virtual event on June 25th, Control at Scale, Building Systems for Financial Precision. It's designed for finance and operation leaders who are done piercing things together and want to build systems that actually hold up under pressure. Now, there are 2 live sessions. The first is about leading through uncertainty, specifically how to maintain a clear financial narrative and keep your team aligned when priorities are shifting in real time. The second is about moving beyond the manual workarounds and building automated systems that give you operational precision at any scale. And because it's live, there's up to 2 CPE credits in it for you, which is a nice bonus for something actually useful. You can sign up at the link below. Just remember to show up live. That's the only way the credits count. All right, now back to the video. Once you have the right data, you now understand where the company has been. But that's nowhere near as valuable as telling the story as to where exactly the company is going. Now, where the company is going is oftentimes referred to as FP&A, or financial planning and analysis. And there's a joke. FP&A may be the only field that you can be wrong and still get promoted. And it's no surprise that FP&A professionals make a lot more than accounting professionals. All right, one more joke. When an FP&A professional gets creative, they get promoted. When an accounting professional gets creative, they go to jail. And when I talk about putting together a forecast, the first step is a proper 3-statement model, where you bring in your income statement, balance sheet, and generate a statement of cash flows. Now, a lot of people think that this is tricky, but it's actually really simple. I made an entire video walking you through step-by-step how to do that right over here. But building a 3-statement model is just one part of a forecast. Creating those projections oftentimes lie between simple projections and complex projections. So let me first show you what some simple projections look like. All right, so here's my 3-statement model, and you can see my income statement that has both actuals as well as projections. The same thing with my balance sheet and the same thing with my cash flows. Now, all that information is driven directly from this drivers tab. And this is what I mean by simple projection. See, I just have this drop down where I can choose a forecasting method. So I can choose a 12-month average or a 6-month average, or like you can see over here, I could even put in an annual assumption and it'll automatically spit out this information. The way that I did that is via this switch function. So here I'm analyzing the driver in column E, and then I'm saying if it's a 3-month average, give me an average of the prior 3 months. If it's a 6-month average or 12-month average, give me that accordingly. And all these other items are defined, so I could quickly just toggle each of those inputs. Now, if you're struggling to put together a workbook that looks like this, that already has a dropdown that you can easily pull from, lucky for you, there's a tool out there called Model Wiz that'll connect directly to your accounting software and generate all of this with a click of a button. Now, this isn't some random tool. This is actually my tool that I've developed with my team over the last 6.5 years. And it's already being used by several accounting firms and finance leaders, allowing you to generate the insights that you need with just a click of a button. And you can try it out entirely for free at modelwiz.com. Now, these projections that we've talked about so far are pretty basic. Oftentimes, the company that you're working with has a need for a lot more detailed projections. And probably the biggest area and most important area of a financial model is going to be the revenue forecast. And while no two businesses are the same, lucky for you, there is a framework that you can follow for any business. And the acronym is EPN, which stands for your existing customers, your pipeline customers, and then your new customers. So the key when you're creating a forecast for your business model as it relates to your sales is to segregate all 3 of these cohorts. So you can see in this example that I have a forecast from my existing customers, customers who are warm in my pipeline, and then new customers. And once you're done with your revenue forecast, you already have a pretty decent chunk of your forecast built. But just like revenue may be the most important area of your forecast, there's a really important expense that you need to be aware of. It's also your biggest expense and hardest to control. Of course, I'm talking about your headcount forecast. So here you can see I have a headcount table that showcases everyone in my company that's currently with me, as well as everyone who is going to be hired. And over here, I can calculate the gross salary. Now it looks like this person started in the middle of the month, so I'm prorating that. And then I could also review the information for how many hires I have by department and the expenses by department by all these different cost types. Now the beauty is once you have this information, you can then just link that back to your drivers like you see over here. So with our simple projections out of the way, our revenue forecast, and our headcount forecast, there's really only one thing left. And this may be one of the most challenging areas of a financial model, but it has a direct impact on your cash flows. Now, this last area of your forecast is really important. So important that we even dubbed a term the accounting equation after it. Now, the accounting equation, if you're not familiar, says assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. And that, of course, refers to your balance sheet. Now, the balance sheet can be really tricky in order to forecast, but once you understand the pattern, it all makes a lot more sense. And that pattern follows a framework called the base framework. See, unlike the profit and loss, the balance sheet shows its values on a cumulative basis. So to get projections, you need to take your beginning balance plus any additions minus any subtractions in order to then get your ending balance. And there are a bunch of really common balance sheet accounts like deferred revenue, inventory, accounts receivable, accounts payable, or capital expenditures. Let me show you how you can forecast each and every one of those. All right, so here I have a forecast where November 2025 is my last month of actuals. My existing deferred revenue balance as of that date is this amount here. And then this is what I'm projecting in new sales. Well, I have these assumptions where my existing deferred revenue balance will be recognized each month over a 12-month period. And then any projected sales will be recognized over a 3-month period. So watch what I'm doing here. In this waterfall table, I'm pulling in that same 23,270, and you can see that I'm actually recognized the revenue or reducing this balance sheet account 1/12 each and every single month. For my projected balance, I'm taking that same amount that we saw earlier, and this time I'm recognizing it 1/3 each and every single month. So going back to that base formula, our beginning balance is 23,270. I add any new invoices, I subtract out my revenue, and that gets me my ending deferred revenue balance. Now, once you start to see this pattern, it'll be really easy to forecast the rest of your balance sheet. All right, so here's accounts payable. And again, I have my existing balance, and then I have any new expenses where I have an assumption that 30% of them will be put on credit. So with these assumptions here, I can see that my existing accounts payable balance I'm forecasting will be paid 50% in month 1, 25% in month 2, and 25% in month 3. And for my projected AP balance, I'll pay everything 30 days later. So once again, if I look at my existing AP balance, I'm pulling in that balance as of November 2025. I have a payment of 50% of that in December, and then 25% in January, and then 25% again in February. I have that same waterfall for my projected AP. Beginning AP plus new expenses on credit minus payments get me my ending balance. Now I can go on and on showing you how this applies for inventory or fixed assets, or really any balance sheet account. And the good news is that once you're done with your balance sheet, you pretty much have a first version of your forecast. But here's the mistake that I see people make once they get to this point. They think that they're done. They then fire off an email to a client saying, hey, here is a financial package. And that financial package looks something like this. It's a detailed income statement, it's a detailed balance sheet, and it's a detailed statement of cash flows. Does this contain a lot of great information about where the company has been and where it's going? Absolutely. Is this in a format that makes it really easy for someone, especially someone not in finance and accounting, to easily understand? Definitely not. And that's the key mistake you need to make sure that you don't make. People need to digest information in an easy to digest format. It needs to, in essence, be enjoyable to consume these insights, which is why our third part in the ultimate CFO reporting system is to present this information with beautiful dashboards. So here I have a dashboard that showcases just 8 of the most important metrics for the business. And this is already much better than that detailed profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash flows that we showed just a few moments ago. But there's another issue with this here. It's missing a vital ingredient. I understand what happened in this period, but I don't really understand how that compares to another period. And the most common periods to compare against is a prior period or a prior year. So now I can understand not only what my revenue was this period, but whether it grew or shrank compared to the prior period, as well as the prior year. Now you could also summarize your profit and loss into a format like this, which is a lot prettier than our last view. And now I have the ability to toggle to any period that I want. So if, let's say, I wanted to show only 2026 data, I can do something like this. Now I see 2 years and the monthly information so that I could identify any trends. And I could also stack my balance sheet and statement of cash flows in a format that's a lot easier to digest. But we've saved the most valuable financial reporting for last. In fact, of all the meetings that I attend, the area where people oftentimes pay the most attention is in this one dashboard. Because it's the one dashboard that gives stakeholders an understanding of how well they actually understand this business. Of course, I'm talking about the budget versus actuals. So here I can understand what I thought was going to happen, what actually happened, and how close I was from a dollar amount and a percentage amount. Now, I like to include both a dollar amount and a percentage amount because $1 million variance may be significant for one company, but insignificant for another. And this is just one view of analyzing a budget versus actuals. I can flip back to the same KPI dashboard and this time check off budget. And now I have a comparison against budget across all these metrics. And here's another view where I could understand any given period versus my budget, prior period, and prior year across my profit and loss, balance sheet, and statement of cash flows. Now, I could talk about dashboards all day long, but there really are only 5 that every CFO needs. And if you want to do a deep dive on those 5 dashboards, I suggest you check out this video right here. I'm Josh, your CFO guy, and I'll catch you at the next one.